what would you say is the greatest advantage of the teacher's edition?
Go Lee.
I think,
Or Bobbie.
yeah, I was going to say.
Okay. I just, when I read this question, the first thing that came to my mind was from the teacher's perspective, everything's at your fingertips.
Yes.
From simple things like, ways to get started, 5-minute little activities to get started with. And again, you're not going to have to go out and find all of these resources on your own. And the other thing, the technology aspect with the kids taking their iPads or their cell phones and scanning those QR codes, getting to find a little tutorial right there for them. The kids just feel like it's just the best of both worlds. They say, if I don't have you to answer the question, I've got it right here, and they didn't have to read everything exactly. So from a purely ease of managing things, that's the biggest advantage to me.
Well, and to kind of piggyback off of that, when I think of working with teachers, AP teachers, I think of the first-year teacher who walks into a situation where they have absolutely nothing. No support from any other fellow teachers, no material support, nothing. And the only reason I look at it from that perspective is because that was my experience as I began teaching AP Bio. I had nothing other than a textbook with no teachers, resources, nothing. And so if I were going to work with a brand new teacher and, they asked me, well, which book would I recommend? This would be the book that I'd recommend because, as Bobbie said, you hand that teacher that teacher's edition and everything they would need other than lab equipment and materials is in that textbook, and it breaks everything out for you regardless of what kind of schedule you run. It provides you with little activities that the kids can do to learn, content and science practices. I mean, it is full of resources. And so, for a first-year teacher or a 20th-year teacher, for whoever it is, it's a great resource.
Agreed. And I like three things. One, we were explicit about how we make connections between chapters. So if you're in a chapter in ecology, it may ping back to a chapter on photosynthesis and cellular respiration. Also, one of the things that a lot of students come back to me and say is, man, I wish we had read more primary literature because my instructors in college are asking us to read primary literature. In each chapter, there is an open source, available, peer-reviewed article that relates directly to the content in that chapter. And then the authors that wrote the resource material, we had to read that, think about it, write questions that we would ask our students, and then provide, potential answers to those questions. So with 45 chapters, you've got access to 45 peer-reviewed articles, each of which have guiding questions that are related not only to the article but also to the AP curriculum. And that's huge.
What is the most challenging aspect of adopting a new AP biology curriculum?
As in a new framework or a new set of resources? I mean, because there's a couple different ways you can attack that question or approach that question, rather. I know that, for as far as adopting a framework I had to unlearn an old way of doing things. But in terms of, selecting resources to use, I know that I had to look at, readability, because my student body is much more diverse now than it was when I started teaching. I had to look at accessibility, where would my students be able to access anything that was available to them online. But I think that those are considerations that you're going to take no matter what kind of curriculum resources you're trying to choose. I'm not sure what else to say in terms of, challenging aspects of adopting curricula. If y'all can add anything.
I looked at it the same way you did, Liz. Thing that I had to do, I looked at it in transitioning to the new curriculum framework. Then, yes, you have to unlearn the old way and start actually doing the science. And it's not just paying lip service to the science. So that was what changed, I think, the most for me. And but it just becomes real when you take this new approach. I guess I might also say that if you are brand new to the AP program, you would do yourself a service. I mean, it would help you so much if you can attend one-day workshops and summer workshops. And I'm going to get off of my consultant hat here, but you need that resource too. You need the camaraderie of folks that are in the same boat. So I'll stop with that.
No, that makes good sense. I think the challenge, and I'm really lucky because I came out of informal ed and this inquiry-based program out of a college and a science museum working together. So I was sort of tailor-made to do the inquiry stuff and activity before content. That's how I do things. So this new framework actually fit the way I taught the class prior to the adoption of the new framework better. I was already doing a lot of this stuff. But again, I'm not saying that to brag, but ultimately the challenge is that you've got to trust yourself and you've got to trust your kids that they know how to do science, they know how to analyze data, they know how to look for trends, and they know how to provide reasons for why a trend happens. And that doesn't happen by magic. That happens by actually doing science on a daily basis inside your classroom. So when you focus your class more on doing science and developing science practices with your students, and then using the content as a vehicle to teach kids how to do things and think about fundamental biological principles, your kids are going to be fine on the exam. And again, I think the challenge is, trusting that you did a good job, and then sort of instilling that confidence in your students to where when they sit down for that exam in May and they're getting a page-long question that they've never seen before, they know they can think their way through it, look for the trend, look for the pattern, and then answer the question based on the fundamental biology that they know. And one more piece on this, and I was thinking about this earlier today, another challenge is to build that vertical team inside of your department. So when kids get to your AP Bio class, or whether it's an AP Chem class or an AP Environmental class or AP Physics, that this isn't the first time they've ever had to think this way. The way that the real challenge is getting your pre-AP teachers to adopt these science practices and build that class up with the 9th and 10th graders that are coming to you. And one more piece on this, if you think about what AP Bio is, it's supposed to reflect a first-year college course for biology. Well, those college professors expect their students to have had a good college prep biology class before they ever got there. They expect their students to have had college prep chemistry before they ever got there. Some of them may have even had physics. So we need to think about what that looks like inside of our departments, so that even if a kid is not going to take AP Bio or AP Chem, they're getting that level of preparation in 9th and 10th grade. And then I could spend another hour talking about how that needs to happen in the middle school. But I'm gonna focus on the things I can control, which is 9th to 12th grade. Again, the challenge is communicating with the other adults in your building and building that culture of doing science throughout your department.